Hey everyone, welcome back. Ever feel like managing inventory is just totally unpredictable? Like trying to predict, I don't know, like trying to predict the weather in a hurricane or something?
Oh, absolutely.
It could be a wild ride, right? But that's where SAP's Material Requirements Planning, or MRP for short, comes in.
Right.
Today we're doing a deep dive into the world of SAP MRP strategies. We're going to be specifically focusing on how to choose the right one for you, because it can get pretty specific. And to help us navigate this whole thing, we're diving into this SAP MRP Made Easy guide. And I got to say, it's way more interesting than the title might make it seem.
I know, right? It really sucks you in.
It does, so no pressure then. But seriously, picking the right strategy is kind of a big deal, right?
Yeah, it is. It's kind of like, you could think of it like finding the perfect recipe, right? Like you want that smoothly running production line. You don't want to end up with a ton of wasted ingredients and a bunch of unhappy customers.
Yeah, no one wants that. So the guide starts with the basics.
Yeah.
Make to stock versus make to order. It's that classic dilemma, right?
Yeah.
Do you bake a batch of cookies ahead of time, or do you wait for someone to request a specific type of cookie?
Exactly. And make to stock is great for those businesses that have a good sense of the demand. So think of, I don't know, like a bakery. They're going to stock up on everyday staples.
Right.
They're using that make to stock strategy because they have a pretty good idea of what people generally are going to want.
Right. Like those croissants you can smell from a mile away, those bakeries, they just know people are coming in for those.
Exactly.
But then what about when you need something super specific, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, a custom designed cake for someone's birthday.
That's where make to order really shines. Each product is made to those individual customer requests.
Okay.
So it's really all about flexibility and making it how the customer wants it.
So two main approaches, but this is where it gets even more interesting, I think. There are a bunch of specific strategies within those two categories. So let's jump into one of the more, I guess, popular ones, Strategy 40 or Planning with Final Assembly.
So this one is super common, especially when it comes to these make-to-stock strategies. It's kind of like if you're thinking about recipes, it's like your go-to recipe for a classic chocolate chip cookie. You kind of have a general idea of how many cookies you're going to sell, so you have your forecast, you know what your ingredients are, and that's how you plan everything out.
Okay, I'm following you. Classic chocolate chip cookie. Everyone loves those. But what happens if there's this sudden, like, surge in demand? What if, like, word gets out that your chocolate chip cookies are the absolute best in town and everyone and their mother is coming to get one?
Yeah, that's actually where this Strategy 40 really, really works well.
Okay.
It allows you to react really quickly to those changes in demand.
Oh, okay.
So even though you're baking to stock, you can adjust those batches on the fly to make sure you've got enough cookies to satisfy all those customers rushing in. And I mean, it prevents you from missing out on sales too.
Wow. That's really cool. I told you this was going to be interesting. It's like, your secret weapon against those cookie shortages. So Strategy 40, it's all about flexibility, but within that make-to-stock world.
Yep.
So let's say you're dealing with more like bulk orders, huge quantities, stuff that would make even Cookie Monster jealous. That's where Strategy 30 comes in, right?
Yeah, Strategy 30 or production by lot size, that's all about optimizing your production, but in those batches.
Okay.
And yeah, you might end up with some leftover stock, but that's not always a bad thing.
Right. Like those day-old bakery shelves. Sometimes you get a really great deal because they made a little bit too much.
Exactly.
The guide mentions that this strategy can be helpful for those businesses that have to cater to both large and small orders. So it's like trying to find that sweet spot between maximizing production but also minimizing that waste.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. Bulk orders, big batches, gotta love discount, right?
Oh, yeah.
But what about those situations where you really have to, like, watch every ingredient? Like every little bit counts. Every resource is precious. The guide talks about something called Strategy 10 or Net Requirements Planning, and it honestly sounds kind of like magic to me.
Yeah, it's really all about efficiency with Strategy 10. So imagine this, right? You're making a cake, and as you're gathering your ingredients, you realize, wait a minute, I've got some flour left over from that last baking adventure. So instead of running out and buying more flour, Strategy 10 is like, hold up, let's just use what we've got. We'll use that leftover flour, and then we'll adjust the shopping list from there. It's like having a super smart pantry.
That's amazing. I need that in my life.
Yeah.
So Strategy 10 basically helps companies use their existing resources before they order more. I'm starting to see a theme here. It's like SAP MRP is all about working smarter, not harder.
Absolutely.
So what about those businesses that are like one step ahead,
Mhm.
The ones that are already prepping stuff before the orders even come in. The guide talks about strategies 70 and 59, and it sounds like they're operating on a whole other level.
Yeah, these strategies, they're all about being proactive. So you've got strategy 70, planning at assembly level, and strategy 59, that's also known as phantom assembly. And those are like having all of your ingredients prepped and ready to go before you even start baking the cake.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So instead of waiting for someone to, like, order the entire cake, you're already whipping up the frosting, you're chopping the nuts, getting everything all set.
Exactly, exactly. It's especially useful for businesses that deal with really complex products with lots of variations. I'm thinking like a car manufacturer. They might use these strategies to plan for components like, say, engines or transmissions before a specific car order even rolls in.
So that way when the order comes in, boom, they're ready to assemble. Right?
Exactly. It's all about speed and efficiency.
I love it. But hold on, what about those businesses that are dealing with, like, constantly changing trends? They don't necessarily know what the next big thing is going to be, so how do they even plan for that? Well, the guide has Strategy 52, and it kind of sounds like it walks a fine line.
Yeah, it does. Strategy 52, planning without final assembly and without make to order, it's kind of like having a really flexible recipe that you can adapt based on, I don't know, like what ingredients are in season. It lets those businesses plan for a bunch of different products, but they're not going all in on huge production runs until they kind of get a feel for what the customers are really after.
So it's like they've got this, like, base cake recipe, and then they can customize it, like different flavors and frostings, whatever people are feeling that day.
Precisely, precisely. It's definitely a more cautious approach, especially in industries where, like you said, those trends are changing all the time.
Right.
And this is where something called netting comes into play, which is pretty interesting.
Netting. That sounds kind of cool. Is that like catching the best ingredients in, like, a giant net?
Not quite, but I like how you're thinking. So netting is really about making sure you don't make too much of something, right? Like preventing overproduction. So it's like having this like really smart shopping list, and it's automatically adjusting based on what you've already got. So it's looking at, how much you have in stock already, what you've already planned on ordering, even potential returns, and it's all to make sure you're only making what you actually need.
Wow. So Strategy 52, it's like having a super smart shopping list for your business. It helps you stay, like, flexible, and it helps prevent all those extra products from piling up. Okay, so let's talk about those businesses that are dealing with, like, tons of different variations of the same product. I'm thinking, like, a company that's selling the same delicious drink, but in, like, small, medium, large sizes. Getting thirsty just thinking about it. The guide has Strategy 63 for that.
So strategy 63, or planning with a planning material, and without make to order, it's kind of like having, I guess, like a master blueprint that you can adjust for all those sizes, all those variations. So you've got that company, and they're bottling juice, right? They've got their small, their medium, their large sizes. Now, instead of having to manage a whole bunch of separate plans for every single size, they can just streamline everything using what they call a planning material. It basically represents the overall demand for the juice, regardless of what size someone's ordering.
Okay, so it's like they've got the recipe for juice, and then they adjust the quantities depending on, how many small, medium, large bottles they need. That's way easier than having, like, a million different recipes.
Exactly. And it helps them out with things like capacity planning, because now they can optimize their production line based on, the total demand for the juice. They don't need to get bogged down in every little detail for every single size.
Okay, that's super smart. So Strategy 63 brings order to all those variations.
Yeah.
But speaking of variations, I am curious about how companies manage those products that have, like, tons and tons of customizable options. Like, I'm thinking custom furniture, where you can choose a fabric, the color, everything. The guide talked about something called variant configuration.
Now, this is where things get really, really interesting, because variant configuration, it's like having this digital toolbox, right?
Yeah.
And it lets companies define that core product and then offer a ton of variations. Like, the sky's the limit.
It's like those build your own menus, but, like, for everything, right?
Exactly. And SAP, it gives you all these specific strategies to manage all of that efficiently. So we're talking strategies 54, 55, and 65. Each one is made to handle these different parts of that variant configuration.
Okay. So no matter how many, like, customization options you offer, SAP has got your back.
Correct.
Right. Okay. I'm impressed. But there's this one term that I wanted to circle back to because it really stuck with me. It's characteristics planning. It's like you're somehow predicting the future of what customers want.
Yeah, in a way you are. So with this characteristics planning, you're not just forecasting the overall demand for the product, but you're actually forecasting the demand for specific features.
So like you could predict how many people want a comfy, oversized sofa versus like a sleek and minimalist one.
Exactly. So it's incredibly precise, and it helps reduce waste because you're making sure you're creating what people are actually looking for.
All right, that's super cool. So we've talked make-to-stock strategies, make-to-order, even those super customized products with the varying configuration. Is there anything that SAP MRP can't do?
It's definitely a powerful system, that's for sure. Now, we've been focusing a lot on make to stock, but let's switch gears a bit and dive into those strategies that are specifically designed for make to order.
Okay, make-to-order. It's like every product is its own like special creation. The guide starts with Strategy 50. And that sounds kind of familiar. Is that related to that Superstar Strategy 40 we were talking about?
Yeah, good catch. It is. Strategy 50 is kind of like the make to order version of 40. So Strategy 40, that gave us the flexibility within the make to stock world, right? Well, Strategy 50, it brings that same kind of flexibility over to make to order.
Okay. So instead of having like, pre-made chocolate chip cookies ready to go, now we're talking like elaborate custom designed desserts.
Yeah, exactly. Like imagine like those incredible wedding cakes.
Yeah.
They're sculpted to perfection. Each one's unique, made to order. They don't even start making it until that order comes in.
So Strategy 50, it's all about like those custom creations. Okay, I like it. Now, what about Strategy 60? Because that makes me think of that Strategy 63, the one that was all about organization. Are those two related?
They are. You're good at spotting these connections. Yeah, Strategy 60, it's definitely related to Strategy 63, but it brings in that make-to-order element. So think of, I don't know, like a company that makes tailor-made suits. They might have, standard sizes for certain parts of it, but each suit is still ultimately customized to that person's measurements, right?
Yeah. So it's that perfect blend of efficiency, but also keeping things interesting, like they don't have to reinvent the wheel every single time, but it's still special for each customer. Okay, so we talked about Strategy 50, we talked about Strategy 60, and then the guide mentions one more strategy for this whole make-to-order lineup. That's Strategy 20. What's the deal with that one?
So Strategy 20, that's for those really, really unique products where it's like you're starting completely from scratch every single time. Think of, I don't know, like a one-of-a-kind piece of art or even like a custom-built house.
So no pre-baking, no pre-planning. It's like just go.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay, so Strategy 20, that's the way to go when like you really don't know what's coming next and each product is totally unique.
Yeah, you pretty much summed it up perfectly. No forecasting, no stockpiling. They just wait for that order and then they get to work. It's cool.
I'm kind of realizing now that SAP MRP, it's not just about like managing numbers on a spreadsheet. It's about bringing these ideas to life, from like the everyday stuff to those really elaborate custom creations.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of inspiring when you think about it.
It is, and it just shows how important it is to pick that right strategy from the beginning because, one size does not fit all here. It's all about what's going to work for you, for your products, for your customers, all of that.
As we start to wrap up this deep dive into the world of SAP MRP strategies, what's like the key takeaway here for our listener? Like what should they be thinking about as they head back into their world of inventory management and all of that?
I would say don't get too caught up in all the technical stuff right away. First, you've got to understand your own business, right? So are you all about efficiency, standardized products, or is your thing more customization and those unique orders? And once you really understand like the goals of your business, the types of products you're offering, then you can dig into those specific strategies, figure out which ones are really going to speak to you. And this guide that we've been talking about, this SAP MRP Made Easy, it's honestly a great place to start.
Yeah. I like how you put that. It's about finding those aha moments, right? Like that's the one, that's the strategy I need. This deep dive has been really, really cool. I feel like I've learned a lot. And I didn't think I could get excited about inventory management. But here I am.
It's true. And the best part is, it's not like you learn it once and you're done. Businesses are always changing. So your strategies can change too, right? You can adapt, you can fine-tune things, and you can keep finding those more efficient ways to do what you do and keep your customers happy.
So to everyone listening, don't be afraid to experiment. Try things out, explore those different strategies, and just see what happens. You might be surprised by what you discover. And hey, maybe you'll discover a love for inventory management along the way. Who knows? Until next time, happy planning, everyone.